the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Happy holiday, one and all. I am Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. Others take days off, and perhaps I should as well. But instead, I'm here with all of you talking over baseball, helping you set your lineups this week, discussing free agency, discussing injuries, discussing what you need to know today as we start out or finish out, I guess, the month of May. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. You can find me at FG. You can find me here at Fantasy Sports Daily, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, I was a dope. I got up at 5 a.m. today to do the cash game breakdown. It's over at fantasyguru.com. I actually did it late last night, too. So that article's up already right now. Enjoy that over at FG. Obviously, right now, the baseball product is popping. It's hot. You can get the seasonal package still. You can get the DFS package. You can get the wagering package. If you get the wagering or the DFS package, we throw in the other sports on the screen that you can see there for free. We give you the rest of the basketball season, the rest of the hockey season, PGA, MMA, soccer, and racing. We give that extra for free if you sign up for the wagering baseball or the DFS baseball package. The football package is about ready to pop, just days away, I think, in fact. I'm not sure if you're wondering about the VIP package. It might be over today. We've been talking about it here on the show. I can't confirm or deny whether it's available or not because I honestly don't know. The VIP package is promo code 50 special. The platinum package gets you everything we do. You can still try it. 50 special, though I'm afraid it might be done at this point in time. You can always use the promo code FSD20. See that on the screen as well. FSD20. That can help you get some discounts on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. And again, we got all kinds of things to help you out there. Tons of information to help you out in all the sports, whether it's wagering, whether it's DFS, whether it's seasonal, the Discord rooms, the podcasts, the live streams. We got a lot going on over there. So, head on over. Tell a friend, even if you don't want to tell a friend because this is your secret sauce, your secret weapon. Head over to the site, pick up a subscription on us over there at fantasyguru.com. All right, leave your questions and comments too. I don't know how much activity we're going to get today because obviously this is a holiday. I don't know how many people are getting up early. I know there's some hardy souls like Henry Vargas is in the room saying morning. Happy Memorial Day to you too, Henry. So I know there's some hardy folks out there. Don't forget later tonight at fantasyguru.com, Justin Fensterman and myself from fantasyguru.com, I should say. We'll be on Elite Sports Game Time. That show is from 8 to 10 Eastern, Monday through Thursday. So Justin and I will be on at 8 o'clock tonight talking about the cash game breakdowns, talking about the GVP articles, talking about our plays in DFS, talking about our bets. We'll be going through the world of baseball, football, hockey, all the live stuff this evening. And also the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mans is 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. That's on in a couple of hours. He doesn't miss a show. We don't miss a show. We got you covered at SiriusXM as well as here at fantasyguru.com. All right. Let's go for it. What are we talking about today? Well, it would help if I would click on the right thing here. There we go. That's what we're talking about today. And let's try that. There we go. Ronald Acuna, we got to start out talking with him. Obviously, one of the stars, if not, one of the stars of the game. I think Ohtani's higher, but, number one pick in ADP, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Ohtani's done for the season. Lane Thomas is hopefully a return today. We'll talk a little bit more about him. Trea Turner, a little bit of a setback. Michael Massey had a setback. Christian Javier, setback. Performance side of things, Julio Rodriguez, Brandon Lowe, Josh. For some reason, it's not Brandon Lowe, it's Brandon Lowe, and that screwed me up when I said Jose. Somehow I saw Josh. Jose Ramierz, Emmanuel Clase, Craig Kimbrel, Reid Detmers, Ronald Blanco, Cal Quantrill, Taj Bradley, and Casey Mize. We'll also do a review of the FAAB. A limited FAAB this week. I guess people were happy with their teams, or maybe they were on vacation too, but we still have some FAAB to go through, so we'll hit that up. And again, leave your questions and comments here at the end. We'll get on those. You can type Fantasy Sports Daily into your local podcast network. Find us there. You can also find us at fantasyguru.com. Click the Elite Plus tab at the top, and that takes you to all the podcasts that we have. And you can also find us on YouTube, where we're live right now. We're also live on Facebook. Live right now at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. And I always forget the Facebook page. So let me pull that up here. In case you want to watch on Facebook Live, want to ask questions, you can do that there too. Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. If we go back to the month of March and we look at the ADP from the NFBC, there were 719 drafts, and the clear-cut number one player, the clear-cut, was Ronald Acuna. His ADP was 104. The next highest was Bobby Witt. His ADP was 288. So somehow Acuna fell to fourth in one of those 719 drafts, but at 104, you could tell that, I mean, it was at 99% of the time he was the first pick overall. I worry about this a little bit in football because I think we're going to get the same situation with Christian McCaffrey. But, anyway, we'll talk more about football later this week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're going to start our visits with Armando, Tyler, and Russell. Start doing that every week starting this Wednesday. But there was unanimity in the fantasy space that not only was Ronald Acuna the number one pick, that he was worth $55 in an auction, $60 in an auction. He was going to be this superstar again because he had one of the greatest fantasy seasons of all time last year. It's truth. This year, he's not been very good. I mean, if we look at his performance to date, I mean, he's stolen 16 bases, which, okay, that'll work. Totally fine with that. But 4 home runs, 15 RBIs, batting 250. Ugh. It really just hasn't been very good. And he is one of a handful of first-round picks, Corbin Carroll, Julio Rodriguez in particular, that just haven't lived up to expectations this year. Acuna was going to have a hard time living up to the expectations because they were so high. And I'll just straight say it. I said this the preseason. He was never going to repeat what he did last year. That just wasn't going to happen. Unfortunately, the reason he's not going to get an opportunity now is that knee issue. And you probably saw it by now. It was a non-contact injury where he was in between second and third base and he kind of spun, and it was just woof. Woof. And he came out after the game. I mean, he came out of the game limping around and didn't look good at all. He came out after the game and said, look, I'm hoping this is about a month because I hurt my knee previously and it kind of feels the same thing. I didn't feel it pop. He's tore his ACL before. He didn't think it was that. Turns out it was an ACL tear. So Ronald Acuna, who now will have both knees repaired surgically, will be out obviously the rest of this season. He'll miss portion of next season to be determined what that is. There's a chance, I guess, he's back for opening day, but that's probably pushing it. Maybe he can get there. Maybe he can get there, but he won't run as much. We'll see. And this is, people have been talking about this. Ronald Acuna is one of the superstars of this game. And he's 26 years old. Went 40-70 last year, right? In 2020, there was COVID, so he played 46 games. In 2021, he hurt his knee. So he only played 82 games. Then coming back in 2022, only played 119 games coming back from the knee issue. Then he played the full season last year. This year, his season's going to be over at 49 games. He's going to be 27 years old and have only played 2 seasons of 120 games. That's bad for baseball. It's bad for the Braves. It's bad for us in fantasy. Realize, too, that he signed one of these young, front-loaded contracts when a guy's a youngster and he's now barely – he played 2 seasons in the big leagues and he got $100 million, which is fantastic. He's drastically underpaid, given his standing in the pantheon of players in this game. He's drastically underpaid, too. Now, again, $12 million a year. We could all live with that. But, so this is just bad all around. There's nothing you can do in the fantasy space. I guess that Jared Kelenic probably sees some more time. He has not done well for the Braves. But I think the major reminder here with Acuna is that the consensus isn't always right. And I say this all the time. And I'm looking at my, biggest questions answered piece. And I said that, betting on this is exactly what I wrote. Betting on a repeat of his historic season isn't a winning bet, period. It's nearly a lock that he won't match his all overall production from last season, like a 97% lock. And then I said, just be wise with your thinking and realize that he could be great and still only go 300, 35, 90, 125, 50. Now, he's obviously not hitting any of those numbers. If he would have done all those numbers, I would assume people still would have been happy, though some would have probably been upset because they would have all been down from last year. Again, never bet on greatness repeating itself. It's just a bad bet, even with great players. Acuna, though, universally the number one pick. And again, to finish my point, don't always have to be a sheep. And I say it all the time. People say, who should I take 1 overall? And I said, well, Ronald Acuna was my number 1 guy. So I'm not being a hypocrite. He was my number 1 guy. If someone said to me, and some of you did, if I took Mookie Betts, was that a mistake? I'd said, no, it's not. Not a mistake. I wouldn't have taken Freddie Freeman over him. I would have taken Mookie Betts over him. If you wanted to take Kyle Tucker ahead of him, I would have said, okay. If you wanted to take Bobby Witt ahead of him, it would have been fine with me. It's true. Consensus isn't always right. It's just a terrible situation, though, at this point in time for Ronald Acuna. Lane Thomas is supposed to be back potentially today. I didn't get a note. I didn't see it this morning, so I don't know if that's actually happened. Looks like Sean Murphy will be activated from the injured list. He's not on there, but Sean Murphy will be activated today for the Braves. Lane Thomas went to the injured list with 11 steals in just 22 games. And though his offense was bad, his OPS was 500. His offense was bad. He was playing every day. He's hitting at the top of the lineup. He's running like crazy. So he's really close to coming back from that knee issue. If not today, early this week, seems very, very likely, if not probable. Let's take a look and see if there's any news reports on that. Maybe something popped as we're talking here. It's really uncertain. No, I haven't. It's not. He's not officially been activated yet. It's not a certainty what is going to happen in the Nationals outfield. It is a certainty that when he's back, Lane Thomas is going to play every day. That's a certainty. We don't know when Dylan Cruz is going to get called up. We don't know when James Wood is going to get called up. We don't know what their plans are with the guys they've got. I mean, Jacob Young has been solid, but he's just a guy. Jesse Winker has been moderately effective. He had a great stretch, but for the most part has been disappointing. Eddie Rosario had a great stretch here the last, 2 of the last 3 weeks, but last week stopped hitting again. He hasn't done anything. They got room for Lane Thomas. He's going to play every day again, and it's a question of when they bring those youngsters up. But there's a lot of pieces here because I haven't even mentioned Victor Robles either. So the Nationals got a lot of weapons in the outfield. They're about ready to get back one of their full-time weapons there in Lane Thomas. Trea Turner, this is bad news for Trea Turner. Now, it's not – well, maybe I should say it different. It's not bad news, but it's not good news. They're saying it's not a big deal, but the fact is that Rob Thompson, the manager of the Phillies, said that Trea Turner's hamstring issue is sore. There's something going on there, and so they're going to slow his rehab a bit. Here's the quote. How long, I don't know. I'm not really concerned at this point. Okay, so we heard 4 to 6 weeks, with 6 weeks being likely when the injury occurred to Turner. Then we heard he's progressing, blasting through this way better than thought. We thought maybe it was going to be 3 to 4 weeks. Now we have some soreness, and they're slowing it down. So this is the nature of injury. And it's the nature of the news cycle. 30 years ago, we wouldn't have got much information on this. And it would have been just like, oh, well, they said 6 weeks. And he would have been back in 5. We would have been, yay. Now we hear this improvement on him on a daily basis. And we're thinking he's going to get 3 or 4. And now if it's 5, we're going to be boo. So, yeah, there it is. Just going to be a scenario with Lane Thomas. With Trea Turner that we're going to have to be patient with. Bryson Stott has done a good job. He's kind of been the winner. Sosa's been great. If you picked Sosa up off the waiver wire, he's been killing it of late in place of Turner, doing an excellent job as a fill-in. But it seems like Trea Turner's not imminently returning. It's not going to happen this week, is a way to put it. Michael Massey went to the injured list, the 10-day sucker with a back ligament sprain. That doesn't sound good. We don't know how much time he's going to miss exactly. They're not anticipating this being long-term, so maybe a couple of weeks he's back. He left the game the other day. Nick Lofton has been called up from the minor leagues. Massey was someone that just had finally, and this happens at times, right? Where you've been waiting on a guy and he hasn't really done much and he really starts to hit. And you're like, all right, man, last 4 weeks, hitting 325 with a 939 OPS. That's 6 home runs and 21 RBIs in 23 games. He's killing it. Last 2 weeks, he's hitting 394 with an 1175 OPS. And then he hurts his back. So we'll see how long he's out. Again, Lofton will be up. Lofton's an AL-only ad. He's not a mixed league ad at the moment. Too bad with Massey because he really was coming into his own offensively at this point in time. Christian Javier, man. He did not throw a scheduled bullpen on Sunday due to discomfort in his forearm. He's running more tests today. The Astros can't get healthy on the hill. What's wrong? What's going on with the water in Texas? The Rangers and Astros can't keep any of their pitchers healthy. Javier has had a very uneven road the last couple of years. Greatness, suckiness, injuryness. I'm making words up. Right now, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if he's going to make his start on Tuesday. I would have to say no chance to that. So I would have to assume they're changing their rotation up because he didn't throw that bullpen yesterday. I mean, I know that the reports are like, well, there's a chance. Doesn't make any sense to me. So if you have Javier, he's not starting for you this week. Get him out, and then we'll keep our eyes closed and peeled and all that kind of stuff and hope it's not a significant injury. At this point in time, I mean, I got to think it's an IL stint. I would assume, but we'll see. But for now, Christian Javier's got to come out of your lineup. On the performance side of things, let's go to some positives. Actually, let's look. I'm looking at the comments right here, right now. Angela Springs had a setback. Yeah, Angela, I know. We talked about this in Discord over the weekend. I think I tweeted about it too. Springs had some setback. It's kind of nebulous. We're waiting now. Another one of these Rays pitchers. They can't keep anybody healthy. Because I was having a discussion with somebody in Discord saying that they had Springs for $1 in a keeper scenario, and they were wondering what's his value. And I said before this injury happened, I'm not counting on a guy coming back from Tommy John surgery, even if it's for $1. It's like I'm okay moving on from that player. And then like the next day, he had the setback. So we'll wait and see with the Rays. The Rays are obviously hoping for Shane Baz to come back too. Like the Rays got a lot of options to potentially return to help their pitching staff, including Springs. And so, the reinforcements are coming if they can get them and keep them healthy, which is a significant issue for the Rays. Henry says it's very hot, but all the playoff innings maybe. I'm not exactly sure what we're talking about. Are we talking about Javier? I assume Henry, because that's the pitcher we were just talking about. Javier, it's not the playoff innings. It's that when we've talked about this, his release point is varied. The flatness of his fastball, he needs to have his release point properly set, or his fastball becomes very hittable. It's also not good when your fastball velocity is legitimately down 2 miles an hour from your top end. He's lost 2 miles an hour in velocity, and not just on his fastball. His slider's down 2.5 miles an hour from a couple of years ago. I'm looking at the numbers right now. His changeup is down 4 miles an hour from a couple of years ago. Now, some of that might be on purpose, but 2.5 miles an hour in your slider, 2 miles an hour in your fastball, he's not right. And that 2022 season where he was great, looking like a distant memory. Was it 2022? Yeah, 2022. Distant memory at this point. Really bad. Julio Rodriguez, to return to him. Julio, 3 or 5 with a home run, 4 RBIs. He's been moved around the order a little bit. He was dropped the other day down to 6th. They put him back up at 3rd yesterday. And so after just a handful of games batting 6th, he's back in the 3rd hole, had those 3 hits. All 3 of his base hits, and this is the most interesting and exciting part for Julio Rodriguez, is that all 3 of his hits were at least 107 miles an hour, and that's smoking. That's barrel rate city. That's hard hit rate city. That's smoking hot. It's 3 swings, but you don't usually have 3 swings like that in a game if you're not really starting to lock in. So let's look for Julio Rodriguez to really pick up or continue that effort this week and to finally get back to being Julio Rodriguez, because he, as noted earlier in the show, has been a big-time disappointment given the expectations to date. Brandon Lowe, going back to the Rays, he went 1 for 1 with a triple and 3 RBIs on Sunday. He's had a lot of injuries. We know what the issue is or situation is with Brandon Lowe, I think, at this point. He played 5 of 6 games. So, guys like Ahmed Rosario and Richie Palacios are now struggling for time in the daily lineup with Lowe back. They'll get Taylor Walls back at some point, too. That even makes it more messy. Lowe is going to play pretty much every day against right-handed pitching, and he still has to be looked at as one of the better up-the-middle power bats in baseball. Can he stay healthy long enough for it to matter? I'm not sure. I mean, I've got him in multiple leagues because he was a 25th round draft pick this year kind of thing. Fingers crossed. Could he hit 20 home runs from here on out? Yeah. He could hit 20 home runs with 70 RBIs from here on out. He could also hit 6 home runs and bat 196. So he's a very defined type of player. He's more in the Nolan Gorman zone, right? A guy whose batting average we're hoping is just keeping pace while he's driving the baseball. Lowe was out there. If you need the boost, he's healthy at this point. We'll see how long that lasts. Jose Ramierz. Oh yeah, it's Jose Ramierz. Jose Ramierz is pretty good. I just wanted to highlight Jose Ramierz because there was a lot of talk about Jose Ramierz struggling relative to expectations, and with so many other early round draft picks really struggling, it was easy to overlook Jose and say, look, he's been fine. He's not been great. He's been fine. Well, the last 2 weeks, he's played 12 games. He's got 6 home runs, 19 RBIs, 3 steals, and a 1,200 OPS. He's got 11 RBIs in the last 6 games. And all of a sudden, this is within 2.5 weeks here, and this is why we have to look at the totality of the season. All of a sudden, Jose Ramierz is on pace to hit 40 home runs with 140 RBIs. I mean, that's legitimately where his pace is, right? Oh, and on pace to steal 20 bases, too. So, keep the faith in these guys. It's a reminder with someone like Julio Rodriguez. I don't know on Corbin Carroll. We're still trying to figure that one out with Corbin Carroll. I'm much more confident at the moment that we'll get that performance back from Mr. Rodriguez. Jose Ramierz blazing hot and doing what he always does, which is be one of the better third base options in the game of fantasy baseball. Emmanuel Clase, I wanted to bring him up because Emmanuel Clase was someone that I wasn't out on per se, because I still had him, I don't know, fourth in my rankings at reliever when the season started, something like that at fantasyguru.com. But he was definitely someone that I warned people about and said, don't make him the first closer off the board. Now, a lot of people took Edwin Diaz, and that hasn't gone very well. So if you made that choice over Clase, oof, sorry about you. Sorry. But that's the nature of picking these guys early. It's why you shouldn't take a closer in the third or fourth round. Clase has 3 blown saves, which given 20 chances and 85% success rate is fine. Last year he led baseball with 12 blown saves. He's got 17 saves already, and his ERA is 0.33. And so everything I said in the preseason looks totally wrong right now. Let's dig a little bit deeper to see how wrong it was. Ultimately, it's wrong because he's got 17 saves to this point. Digging a little bit deeper, this is great to see. His strikeout rate has gone back up 5%. That's huge because last year his strikeout rate was below the league average. That was a legitimate concern. When you lose 7% in your strikeout rate, which he did last year, 7%, even adding back 5% this year, then obviously he's still below his previous norm, right? That's a significant concern. He has been extremely fortunate today with a 217 batting average of balls in play. That's very unlikely to continue the rest of the season, right? We know that. The exit velocity, the launch angle, and the hard hit rates are all very similar to last season, maybe up just a tad, but very similar to last season. He's kept the ground ball rate. So really, to date, the one thing that has changed, and has changed dramatically, though still not to previous levels with Clase, is that strikeout rate. So at this point, I mean, he's got that role, and they use him, and they use him, and they use him. It's much like his performance to date is much like what I expected from Camilo Duvall with the Giants, because it's the same type of thing with the Giants. Don't have a great offense, but they do a lot of mixing and matching. They're in a good ballpark for pitching. They have a stratified bullpen that's very clear. Unfortunately, Duvall to date has performed more like Clase in my expectations, whereas Clase has performed more like Duvall. So missed that one to date. It's third through the year. We'll see how it goes. But Clase, tip of the cap, he's done very well this year. Craig Kimbrel is somebody that I think a lot of us, including myself, have on teams because he was, reliever 18 off the board or whatever it was. It's like you took Craig Kimbrel and you said, okay, Craig Kimbrel. Started out great, hit the toilet. Everyone panicked. Well, don't panic. It's Craig Kimbrel. We talked about him on the show here, and I know I said for a fact it's Craig Kimbrel. This is the Craig Kimbrel experience. Last, 7 times out there, no runs allowed. Last 7 times out there, no walks. So he's locked in, and oh, by the way, his last 4 outings, all saves. So Craig Kimbrel's back to being in the good graces. Yainer Cano is the guy that's been struggling, really. But Kimbrel's now up to 12 saves and 15 chances. Not bad. We can deal with that. He's got a 37% strikeout rate. We can definitely deal with that. His whip is down to 1. He's not walking anybody at the moment. So Craig Kimbrel's he's back, and that's just the Craig Kimbrel experience. Reid Detmers, wanted to touch on him quickly here. Reid Detmers, and as you can tell here, I don't think we're going to be going a full hour today. I got some stuff to do. Not fun stuff. I got work to do. As I mentioned earlier, the Elite Sports Show is on from 8 to 10 Eastern tonight anyway. Reid Detmers is someone that if you can, you hold. Reid Detmers is someone who I like. I've talked about him for years now. Reid Detmers is someone, if you look below the surface level numbers this season, you see lots of reasons for success moving forward. His effort against Cleveland over the weekend didn't allow a home run, which has been an issue for him at times, but he walked 4 guys. So even though he struck out 8 in 5 innings, he walked 4, which totally negates the excitement you get with the strikeouts. Bottom line, though, with Detmers is, 338 batting average of balls in play. Come on, man. No, his stuff is too good for that. That's just not long term. The 63% left on base percentage rate is terrible. It's 10% below where it's going to end up being, or should be, or will be. May not be 10. It may not reach 73% this year, but it'll definitely reach 73% if you add this year to next year. I'll make that claim, right? That number is going to improve dramatically. He still has a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, even with the 4 walks the other day, which is still a good number. He's been unfortunate with the home run to fly ball ratio. It's a little high. But the real issue with him is it's just all over the place. And so he needs to lock things in. And I believe he will at some point. So again, if he's on the waiver wire, I would add him if possible. If that's not possible, okay. If you don't have space, I get it. A lot of people have great pitching staffs. Surprisingly, some of you do have great pitching staffs. I don't in most of my leagues, but some of you do. But I still am a big fan of Reid Detmers. Ronel Blanco returned, and kudos to Ronel Blanco for that effort when he was back out there for the Astros. And he, basically returning from that 10-game suspension, basically the same guy he was before, right? 7 innings, 1-run baseball, walk run, struck out 6 against the Athletics. It was the Athletics in Oakland, one of the better places to pitch in baseball against a obviously less than stellar lineup. So, have success there, but he pitched really well. As we discussed previously, and just to hit on it again, Ronel Blanco in August will turn 31. He is not a young guy. This is a long and winding road for him to have gotten here. He did throw 125 innings last year. So, and he's 31. I don't think they're going to protect his arm. That same time they need him because your Queedy had a setback. McCullers is still there, trying to get back from injury. It's just been messy for the Astros, to put it kindly. But Blanco continues to just get outs now. He has a 200 batting average of balls in play, which is impossible. He's the anti-Detmers. Like if you compared Blanco to Detmers skills-wise, there's not much of a gap here, if there's any gap, to be fair. Detmers has a better strikeout-to-walk ratio. He's got a less fortunate batting average of balls in play. He's up at 338. Blanco's down at 200. He's at 63% left on base percentage rate. Blanco's at 92%. Like they're one guy is way up and one guy is way down based upon what should be expected from both. Blanco, has got a under 1 ground ball to fly ball ratio and a league average strikeout rate. And his walk rate's worse than league average. The things are going to eventually catch up to Blanco, but he returned and was very good yet again. I don't think there's panic with Ronel Blanco, but as I've said previously with him, I would be interested in exploring the trade market if someone believes the 101 whip and the 1.99 ERA. And now that he's back and he proved that it wasn't sticky stuff, he wasn't cheating, because last time out against the A's, he was really good. Maybe you can parlay him into something. Cal Quantrill is the quintessential pitcher that I want nothing to do with. He's on the Rockies, which, of course, just on its surface. But you got to say to yourself, look, his ERA is 3.5 and his whip is 1.21. Those are solid numbers. And no matter where he was pitching, those would be solid numbers. But in Colorado, those are really good numbers. And if you look at him, his last 6 outings, which is the last month, the ERA is 2.95 and the whip is 1.01. And he does have 34 strikeouts in 36 innings. Now, the really hard part is Quantrill's pitching pretty well. Gomber's pitching pretty well. Ty Block had a good effort the other day against the Phillies. Sometimes we talk about the Colorado ballpark a lot. It's Colorado. But it's not Colorado before the humidor. And, it hasn't been 80 degrees there a lot in Colorado. And so, some of these pitchers, and I think the Rockies, to their credit, have found the type of pitcher they need to focus on to have success at the altitude. So Quantrill fits the bill here. But even though he's had that strong success, you and I are both of the same thought, right? It's like, how do you pitch Quantrill in Colorado and feel good about it? You can't. So are you going to add him to pitch him every other start? And again, his strikeout rate is better the last, month here, but he's never struck anybody out. His strikeout rate's been under 20%, including this year, 4 straight years. That's bad, really bad. His walk rate this year would be a career worst. That's not something you want to see when you're pitching in Colorado. He's been very fortunate. He's got an 80% left on base percentage. That's very fortunate. I just struggle here with him. And, if at the end of the season he wins 13 games and he, throws 170 innings and his ERA is 3.6 and I was wrong, I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying I'm okay with that. So I don't know how you feel. I don't know if any of you have ever picked up Cal Quantrill. Maybe you're riding him now. I just can't get behind him despite the good work. A guy I can get behind, and a guy that I have gotten behind, I've written about and talked about since before the season began this year, is Taj Bradley with the Rays. And, we're cooking with gas now. We really are. He is blazing hot at the moment. 5 innings against the Royals last time out. Didn't allow a run, only allowed 1 hit. That's 3 of his 4 games this season. And again, it's only 23 innings, but 3 or 4 games where he's allowed a total of 3 runs. He did allow 5 runs to the Red Sox, but in that game, he didn't walk anybody and he struck out 10. So there were still things you could take away from that effort. Overall, in those 4 starts, he's only 1-2, but he's got a 3 ERA. His whip is 0.9. His strikeout rate is 32%, which is elite for a starting pitcher. He's got a 7% walk rate. This is really good stuff. And it shows that his arm is healthy, which is the most exciting part. Is he going to maintain a strikeout rate of 32%? No, I don't think he's going to do that. Could he be in the high 20s? I think so. He's definitely well above a strikeout an inning guy. And if he can continue to throw strikes effectively like he has to date and keep the walk total down, because the 63% first pitch strike rate is pretty good. It's not great. League average 60, 61, but it's pretty good. If he can continue to limit the walks and get those strikeouts, he's going to be usable the rest of the way. And he's another one of the youngsters. He's only 23 years old, but he does have innings on his arm. So I feel much more comfortable with him than I do with some other youngsters, being able to pitch deep into the season. And Bradley missed some time with injury too, so that helps. So from here on forward, I'm all in Taj Bradley. I think you should be too. Casey Mize is the final one to talk about here before we start talking some FAAB. Casey Mize, we've had a discussion here on the show, written about him over at the site, and everything looked good with Casey Mize. And then it didn't. And the last 2 times in particular, he's gotten bombed. He's allowed 9 runs on 17 hits in 6 innings of work. He's allowed a home run in 5 straight games all of a sudden. Now you pull back from that hot start with Casey Mize and you see a fellow with a whip of 1.4 and a strikeout rate of 16%. This is very much a skill set that has similarities with Cal Quantrill. To show you what can and like what happened to Cal Quantrill, this is what's happening to Casey Mize. You in the modern game, you really are going to struggle if you don't miss bats as a starting pitcher, unless you have an extreme ground ball rate. You can go deep into games, and your control is very good. Mize has got a 49% ground ball rate, which is good. It's really good. Is it where I'd like the number to be over 50% with his lack of strikeouts? I'd like it to be 55 if we could. It's a little light, and though he's done a good job with the walks, the problem for Mize is I think his stuff is just soft. And when he makes a mistake, and I'm talking like, inch here, inch there, it just gets hit. That's, his exit velocity since the start of last season. Oh, let's just use this year. We'll throw last year out. It's 91 miles an hour. That's a huge number. It's just a huge number. With 11% launch angle, guys just square him up. So Casey Mize, I'm not surprised. It's unfortunate that it happened so quickly, and hopefully you didn't have him in your lineup, but I'm not surprised that he struggled after that early season start. All right, let's talk some FAAB here. All right, let's go the other way. Let's make my face a little smaller if I can figure this out. Oh, that's really small. Is that where it normally is? There's Ray. There's the thing. Yeah, all right. I'm blocking my face down here. Maybe I should see if I can do this. Can we do this? Oh, that's too small. I'm just popping. Nah, that's not going to work. That's not going to work, Ray. Well, let's just do that. I don't know. It's more important for you to see FAAB than my face, so let's just do that. Here's the results from Tout Wars. Again, Tout Wars is the only 12-team league I'm in. On-base percentage replaces batting average. Wins are replaced by innings pitched. Saves are replaced by solds. As you can see here, very small, very limited number of moves this week. Emmanuel, who we just talked about, was added with the release of his teammate, Whitfield. I created a word. Merrifield. Good job, Ray. Edmundo Sosa has the last 3 weeks hit 321 with 1,000 OPS. Like I mentioned earlier, he's been in the cash game breakdown a couple of times at fantasyguru.com. He's done a really good job. He's a short-term ad because once Trey Turner's back, there's no spot in the lineup for him daily. But right now, he's doing very well and probably qualifies at outfield and shortstop maybe in your league. That's kind of nice too. Michael King, who's pitching today for the Padres, he went for $136, which is 14% of the budget. He, the last 4 times out, has been pretty solid. 3 of the last 4 times really good. One of them was kind of wonky, but I think his ERA is like 3.24 and his whip is under 1.1 the last 4 starts, bringing the strikeouts as well. King is very solid. He just needs to stay healthy and show he can go deep into a season. I think that his effort to date has been a little wonky, a little uneven. That's why he was on the waiver wire. But again, 3 of the last 4 starts, he's been really good. He's pitching today for the Padres. If you look a little bit further down, you'll see that I added Cole Irvin for $47 over the $136 for Michael King. Irvin's a 2-start pitcher. He's going today for the Orioles. As we discussed last week, John Means had another setback with his arm. So it appears that whether or not short-term the Orioles go with the 6-man rotation or not, Irvin's in it. And, the fact is, I think that I was talking to Phil Backert about this. Our producer, he also does cheat sheets on baseball. He also does IDP work for football for us at fantasyguru.com. I was talking to him, and I think he said that the Orioles have 1 day off in 30 days. It was 1 day off in 30 or 31 days. Like, they're just playing every day. It's that part of the schedule for them. So I thought Cole Irvin with the 2-start effort this week was a very good pickup. Obviously, that's why I added him myself. Would I rather have King to Urban? Not at that price. Not at 3 times as much money. No. So it's too early for me to be worried about FAAB per se, but that's $90. That's 3 other significant pickups throughout the year. So I'm more comfortable with where I ended up there. Going back up to the top, Nick Gonzalez, we talked about him on the show, written about him over at fantasyguru.com. $4, great pickup there. He's shown some really nice batted ball data since he's been recalled by the Pirates. Jake Myers, $55. Myers is not the hitter he has shown himself to be. Period, point blank, end of sentence. Same time, he's doing it. And it's one of those things where I can say the guy's not the guy, and I fully believe that. And over the course of the season, I think those numbers will regress. But right now, he's performing very well the last 2 weeks. He's got 3 home runs. He's got a .340 batting average. Lowe Perfido looks like he's about ready to be removed. Jose Abreu is very likely to be activated today by the Astros. The assumption being Lowe Perfido is the guy on the way out. Obviously, Jake Myers, hitting .293 with an .895 OPS has made that decision easier for the Astros. So it looks like Myers not only is going to stick around with Lowe Perfido being the guy that's out, but Myers is going to continue to play at least until he stops hitting. Matt Vierling, $55 as well. Vierling is an interesting fella, especially in a deeper league. Again, this one's only 15, so this is not, overly deep, but he qualifies at third base and in the outfield, and he's 7 for his last 17 with a couple of home runs. The last 2 weeks hitting .300 with a .977 OPS. The last 24 games hitting .280 with an .850 OPS. So he's been effective. He's not going to steal a base. In fact, he has no stolen bases this year. And, he's hitting a home run every 15 games. So 10 home runs a season kind of thing. That's what he hit last year, 10. So we're talking 10 home runs and 2 steals, which is very, this is a play on Vierling, a short-term play. It's a little, personally, it's more expensive on a short-term play than I'd want to be. I'd want to be in the 20-30 range than 55. Like Edmund Soso, right? Like Soso was 24. That's where I want to be with a short-term pickup personally if you're thinking about spending FAAB versus 55 on Vierling. But sometimes you pay a little extra to get your guy. He does qualify in the infield and the outfield, which is nice, and he's blazing hot right now for the Tigers. Willie Castro went for 72. This one, Castro qualifies at multiple positions too. I think that this is a significant overspend. If I had to put it out there. Again, when you have injuries, I had to add, in this Tout Wars League, I had to add Luis Garcia Jr. No, Ezekiel Duran earlier. And I don't remember what I paid. $40. I needed second base, and he was the best guy I could get. That's probably what happened here to Zach. Is that a different guy? Willie Castro is on. Oh, no, I'm looking at a different thing. Yeah, that's Willie Castro. So I think that's an overpay for Willie Castro. Again, you get what you got to get off the waiver wire when you need that fit, but he hasn't hit the last couple of weeks. He's hitting 200. He's got a couple of steals in 12 games. He'll run a little bit, qualifies in multiple spots, but I'm just nah. Simeon Richardson at 5. Don't care about him. Hamilton at 17. Interesting because Hamilton can run. He's gonna, and that's something, the Red Sox are gonna play him. His bat's a little, but there's some signs there. Like, I'm not 17 on Hamilton. David Hamilton's not bad at all, especially if you need some steals. Not bad at all. So it's cheap enough that who cares? Aranda for $2. Yeah. Feldner for $5. Not doing that. Heliot Ramos for 36. That's fine. And then Patrick Bailey. That's a good one right there. And the thing, sometimes people make moves because they have to, right? Patrick Bailey shouldn't have been released. We have IL spots in this league. He shouldn't have been released. Ray, why didn't you add him? Well, I didn't add him because I have Salvador Perez, who is destroying the baseball. And I have Elias Diaz, who, despite not being a 300 hitter, is hitting 300, with a 345 on base percentage. So I just didn't have a needed catcher. I'm surprised there weren't more people involved. That's a good addition there. For $21. Very good addition. All right, let's go to the next league we're going to talk about here. And the next league we're talking about is labor. And this league is a 15-teamer. As you can see there, $100 versus $1,000 in FAAB. Kyle Quantrill for $4 is Zach Steinhorn. Zach says, I need pitching, and I'm going to give it a shot. We talked about Quantrill earlier. I just can't. Cooper Criswell for $4. I'd rather have Criswell, though, his durability factor and his ability to keep up his hot start for the Red Sox is also in serious question. But again, $4, you're just in that zone. And as you can see coming up, I'm in that zone too with some moves. There's no other bids on Quantrill, by the way. Criswell had a couple of others with 1 and 2. Ji Hwan Bae went for 3. There was a failed bid for 2. That's obviously a speed play with the Pirates. Bailey Falter went to me for 3. I took Falter for 3 over Quantrill for 4. And as you can see, no one else bid on my guy. Now, Falter is someone that we've talked about before. I even added Falter. This is how this goes. I added Falter for a 2-start week, and he had his worst start of the season, of course, right? But overall, he's got a 3.5 ERA and a .98 WHIP. I mean, does he miss bats? No. Is he comfortable as a starter? No. Does he pitch in Colorado? No. Pitches in Pittsburgh. Okay. And he's been very effective. So I'd rather take my shot on that. Again, very, in my mind, rather similar outlook to Quantrill long term if the parks were neutral. Parks aren't neutral. So that's why I went with Bailey Falter. Luke Raley went to me for 3. Failed bids for 1, 2, and 1. We talked about Raley. I actually added Raley myself in another league 2 weeks ago. So, I was very happy to get him at that point. I think, qualifies at multiple positions, has hit well. He had that really nice run a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden you look up and his numbers are pretty good. He has slowed down the last week. He's got a home run the last week, hitting 238. But, hey, look, the last month he's hitting 338 with 899 OPS. Last 2 weeks, 333 with an 889 OPS. So 12 games, 24 games, almost exact same OPS. I'll be comfortable with that OPS the rest of the way is 798, right? As long as he has a little bit of power and a little bit of speed. Again, I'm plugging holes here. That's why I did that. Mark Vientos went for $2. There was another bid for him at 2. So everyone's kind of in that same zone. Interesting this week, right? Everyone's kind of in that same zone. AJ Puck went to $2 to Dr. Roto, who's playing the forward-thinking game, seeing if he'll get a chance to close at some point, especially if Tanner Scott gets traded. David Hamilton went for $2. Freddie Fermin went for $1. Jose Siri for $1. Adam Duvall for $1. Miguel Amaya for $1. Otto Lopez for $1. Jeremiah Estrada for $1. And Sean Bouchard with the injury to Mr. Beck with the Rockies. Rockies were at home this week too. So not a bad $1 throw there at the bottom for Fangraphs. All right, the final, well, learn how to click here. The final one is the FSGA 14-team mixed league. $1,000 in this one. Ryan Weathers went for 56. Ben Brown went for 30. Dylan Moore went for 22. Moore is very interesting. I was talking about him in Discord right before the show began too. My assumption was that Dylan Moore would probably start to lose some playing time once JP Crawford returned. Hasn't really happened. And it's understandable because right now there's a couple of players for the Mariners that are not performing. There's a couple of players that are performing. And one of the guys that is performing right now is Dylan Moore. Dylan Moore qualifies in the infield and the outfield. He might qualify in multiple infield spots. Depends on your setup. On the year, he's got his OPS up to 850, 6 home runs, 8 steals. This is a player in Moore who I can envision a 20-30 season out of him. And I've said that for a few years. Now, the problem with Moore is that he gets exposed when he's in the lineup consistently. He strikes out and doesn't produce batting average, doesn't get on base at a tremendous rate. He's more of I've got the skills, but I can't really translate that into consistent long-term success. And so the Mariners have constantly found ways to get him in the lineup, but he's a .212 career hitter with a .320 on base percentage. The .320 on base percentage, so maybe I sold him short. It's solid. But the problem with that is his on base percentage the last 3 years has been .270, .370, and .303. Like it's really vacillated, and part of the reason for that is the strikeout rate. He's done a much better job. He's cut 8% off his strikeout rate this year, which is huge. If he continue to do that, then maybe that 212 batting average ain't going to happen. Maybe it's going to be 242, right? Which is basically where he's at right now, 244. Moore is, again, multi-position flexible, power, speed, issues with playing time. I still think that's the case, even though he's started to see some time recently, I think in the outfield because of the struggles the team has had. Yeah, he's played the last handful of games, played left field, second base, third base, left field. So and he's obviously shortstop capable too. They moved him all over the place. I just look at this team and I think to myself, well, look, at some point in the near future, they're gonna have to make the decision here because they got Mitch Haniger, who he's got to be out of the lineup if Moore's in the lineup. They've got Jonathan Clase, the outfielder that they believe in significantly. He's up with the big league roster. He's an outfielder. Mitch Garver hasn't really hit, but they'd like to get Mitch Garver more involved as a DH. If that happens, Dominic Canzone gets moved to the outfield. So Moore's there now. It's a price point. Go for it, right? It's $1 or $22 out of 1,000. Go for it. I'm a little concerned long term, but right now, totally fine with it. As you can see, there were some 5 bids on Moore this week. People thinking the same thing. Miguel Andujar went for $20. I don't really care about him at this point. $20 for Daniel Hudson. That's a fine bid. 17 for Cal Quantrill. Again, we've talked about him. Mark Vientos for 12. I like that addition for 12. That's a good pickup at 12 for 1,000. He's got a chance to take over the majority of the playing time at third base from Brett Beatty. They're still trying to figure that out. Keibert Ruiz to Adam Ronas. Keibert Ruiz has been terrible. He's just been terrible. Now, he's worked on things. He's broke his swing down, and I think he's finally found it again. The last 2 weeks, the last 12 games, batting .344 with an .864 on base percentage. Always like Keibert Ruiz. You all know that. He's really started to find his stroke after a dreadful start to the season. Good addition there. Absolutely good addition. Leo Tavares for $8. He's kind of, Henry Davis, same thing. Eddie Rosario for $5. Rosario stopped hitting. We talked about him earlier. Rosario went on a tremendous hot streak. He hit that home run on a pitch and almost hit him the other day. If you didn't see that, look that up. That was crazy. The pitch was like a foot. Was it 1.4 feet inside? It was the furthest inside pitch that's ever been hit for home run in StatCast history or something like that. Check it out. But he's really struggled all season long and struggled again last week. So, again, I think that's a fine price point, but I think that bid's 2 weeks too late. Nick Gonzalez for $4, another good bid there. And then Adam Duvall, who mashes lefties and gets a chance to face one today for the Braves. And, of course, there's the situation with Acuna. So maybe Duvall gets more work than just against lefties. All right, so there we go. So that's kind of what we've got here for the show today. Let's see if there's any comments here before we shut things down and I head over to start having some more fun at fantasyguru.com. Okay. Happy Memorial Day, says Doug. Late for the show. We'll get the rebound. Absolutely. Again, fantasyguru.com. Click the Elite Plus tab. You can always find the show stored on your podcast networks, Fantasy Sports Daily, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, or on Twitter, or on Instagram, YouTube. There's so many names. Or on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can catch us there. Doug. Brandon A. Good morning, Ray and the fam. I have Sean Murphy coming off the aisle today. Do I drop Gonzalez, Otto Lopez, or Luis Matos? This is to fill my UT spot in an NL-only league. Lopez is the guy I would let go. And Gonzalez, again, I really like what I've seen from him this year. The batted ball data is also very supportive of what the eye test says with him. I think Matos is someone that the Giants are going to give run here to. And whether or not that's, as we talked about since he was called up, whether that's aggressive or not, whether that's usable in the mixed league or not, in an NL only, it's definitely usable. So those would be the two guys that I would hold on to, Brandon. Tony, what's up, Raymundo? Again, my name is Ray. We were joking about this the other day because people used to call me Raymond. And I was like, well, Raymond's not my name. I'll take Raymundo. That's better than Ray. In fact, my dad used to call me Raymundo at the time. What's up? Yeah, I'm wishing I didn't have to get up at 5 o'clock on a national holiday. Wishing I didn't have to work till after 7 o'clock on a national holiday. But hey, I work from home in my slippers and I break sports down. So it could be a lot worse. Angela, you're streaming Alec March Day. That's fair. He faces the Twins, if I remember correctly. He was in the cash game breakdown at fantasyguru.com. Ended up dropping him out, but he was because the slate was different than I was anticipating. But he was right on the edge there. I think that he's a fair start today. I don't mind that at all, Angelo. And Bill says Lou Profito was sent down. All right, let's look it up here, Bill. You're breaking the news here on the show for me, and that's one thing that is difficult to do when you're hosting a show, is to also be aware of what's going on in terms of player movement. Let's see what the player movement is with the Astros. According to a source. Okay, well, I guess that's going to happen anyway. Did you see an actual, Bill? Did you see an actual it happened? Or are you just seeing that it's going to happen? I'm still not saying it's going to happen, but again, as we talked about, it's expected to happen. Anyway, it's going to happen. Let's just call it that way. Lowe Profito out. And just to hit on Lowe Profito again, he struggled mightily with the strikeout. And he only had one home run, which is below expectations. But he hit .333 with an .817 on base OPS. I'm just saying that, it's very rare that a youngster gets called up and hits .333 with an .817 OPS and gets demoted. Very rare. And it looked like, and I think I spent 14 of my $100 in FAAB money in labor on him. That's looking like a fail. This is again why I hate rookies, because is he more likely to help them right now than Jose Abreu? I think so. We'll see if that happens. Obviously, Abreu was always going to get an opportunity to come back. I didn't expect Jake Myers to hit as well as he did in the outfield, of course. But Lowe Profito's on the call up. He'll be probably next man up if the Astros have a need. And with the way things have gone with their pitching, got to figure things are going to happen on the hitting side at some point as well. So, all right, folks, there it is. Thanks for listening today. Appreciate it. Head over to fantasyguru.com. Check out that cash game breakdown. Look for my work there. I'm answering questions over in the Discord, both baseball and football right now. We'll be on the Elite Sports Game Time show tonight, 8-10 Eastern on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Jeff Mans will be on Fantasy Sports Radio from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern on the Elite Sports Show. So check that out. This show will be up in minutes at fantasyguru.com and also be on your podcast network within the hour or so. Have a great holiday. Don't let my complaints bother you. Don't let me do it. And okay, Bill says he's got it. RotoWire per Ari Alexander of KPR. Well, that's okay. I'll accept it. Again, I think it's going to happen anyway. So, final question for Tony. I just saw this come up. Star Wars or Star Trek? Star Wars without question. If I'm doing Star Trek, I am a traditionalist. I want Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner, the old school Star Trek. I think it was 3 years, right? That run there. But Star Wars, I've told the story. I don't know if I told it here. I still have a vision in my head from when I went to preschool, because when I was in preschool when I was 4, that's when Star Wars came out. I'm not 4. I had Chewbacca, and I used to take Chewbacca to class with me every day. Do you remember the little Chewbacca action figure? Chewbacca. Yeah, but Star Wars for me, I've seen the original Star Wars movie more than any movie I've ever seen in my life. When it came out on HBO, that was the greatest. I legitimately would watch it every day. I think they would play it, when it first came out, like they would be on like once a day kind of thing, right? And so they played it 30 times a month or whatever. I think I saw it 28 times in the 2 months, if I remember correctly. Like I watched legit, and I don't mean 5 minutes. I watched it every day. And this is before DVDs and stuff because I'm old. But yeah, Star Wars would be my choice there. Yes, Tony C. Yes, and yes, and yes. Appreciate you, Tony. So everyone head over to fantasyguru.com. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the interaction today. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a great holiday. Get out, enjoy yourself, have some fun, set those lineups, get everything rocking and rolling for this week. Get your lineups at DFS or seasonal, wherever it might be, and enjoy yourselves. And come back if you're out and about. Check in Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio 3 to 6 for Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show, and for Justin Fensterman and me on the Elite Sports Game Time Show from 8 to 10 Eastern. I'm Ray Flowers. Thanks for listening today. Back in tomorrow here on Fantasy Sports Daily at 11 a.m. Eastern, powered by fantasyguru.com.